Adam, how come there isn't an individual announcing competition?
Well, because very few people actually want to be an announcer, and who the heck wants to watch an announcing competition?
Not this guy.
It's showtime. This is The Ski Show, the ultimate show ski podcast, and your one and only source for all things show skiing, bringing you news, knowledge, and interviews with the legends and stars of our sport. Here are your hosts, Matt Heilman and Adam Schaller.
Welcome to The Ski Show, heading into our 5th summer of podcast episodes, and we are still the only media on the planet dedicated to the sport of show skiing. As we gear up for a summer full of tournaments, today we talk about preparing for individual competition. We have 3 of the best individual competitors in 3 different disciplines to talk to us all about planning, preparation, practicing, overcoming nerves, dialing in your routine, and so much more.
And today's sponsor is Flyman Skis, custom-made jump skis and featherboard swivel skis at affordable prices. Get yours at flymanskis.com.
All right, we're going to start with a little news. We're going to talk about the first Buck Up Pro Tour stop. And I need to set this up a little bit because today's interview, we have Pete Hegarty, Brea Imse, and Cory Krivitz. And Pete is a key factor in our conversation about Buck Up today. We've already recorded with those 3 guys last week, but we're recording this part today on the front end of this episode after the Buck Up occurred. And so we're going to give you a little recap, and it'll be fascinating for our audience to then listen to this episode in hindsight after how this materialized. So the Buck Up, first of all, was awesome. 20 competitors in men's and women's division combined. 13 men, 7 women competing in freestyle jump, Adam. 7.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yes. Freaking unbelievable. And this is in Minnesota. So a lot of these people traveled. There quite frankly weren't many or any Minnesota participants, only a couple. A lot of people traveled a long way to White Bear Lake, home of the Ski Otters, and they hosted. And the tournament was great. So I want to start with the women's event. Bailey Hyatt makes a 2-ski heli, a 2-ski front flip, and she just missed a 1-ski front flip. She made her 1-ski front in practice, missed it in the competition. Gabby Tash, 2-ski heli, 2-ski front flip, made them. Sarah Fedorowicz, 2-ski flip, 2-ski gainer for the win.
Oh my goodness.
Unreal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's special stuff, like seeing the growth of that on the women's side. So cool to see all these ladies getting after it. Yeah, it's been great. Like had our own Presley Cup. Like, she made a flip last week for the first time. She competed in Buck Up, threw a couple flips, didn't make one. She made her heli, missed her flip. But these girls are just getting after it. It's so great. On the men's side, fascinating tournament. The preliminary rounds, so in Buck Up, you get 3 jumps in the qualifying, and your top 2 jumps score. If you hit the distance buoy on a 4.0 difficulty jump or higher, which is essentially, for our audience, a 1-ski flip or gainer or higher jump, you hit that distance buoy, you automatically qualify for finals. So you could only make 1 jump, but if you hit the buoy on a 1-ski gainer, you make finals.
You're in.
Yep.
Okay.
So qualifying goes on. Derek Buckman makes the buoy on a 1-ski front. He makes 1-ski gainer. He's going to be in the top 5 qualify for finals. Liam Klotzbach goes freaking 100 feet on his 1-ski flip and his 1-ski gainer, just stomped huge ones. He was flying, man. It was amazing. Cale Duquesne, huge 1-ski gainer, 1-ski mob. He's in. These guys are all qualifying. Matt Strode made a 1-ski flip and a 1-ski heli. Evan Marcus was back at it after the injury with his the shoe ski incident where he wrecked his face, was back inverting and competing in this competition, made a 1-ski flip and a 1-ski gainer. Carter Buckman made the ball on a 1-ski gainer, popped his shoulder out doing a disco. But he qualified for finals, couldn't ski it. Pete Hegarty got ball on a huge 1-ski flip and then missed 2 back halves. I've never seen Pete, since Pete's got those dialed in the last 3 years, let's call it, I've never seen Pete miss hardly any, much less 2 in a row.
But he qualified because
He qualified because he made the ball.
Okay.
So Carter couldn't compete would have qualified top 5, but he was injured. Derek qualified and had to leave to go to a wedding, so he didn't stay for finals. So both the Buckman boys qualified but didn't stick around for finals. Couldn't compete. So Matt Strode and Evan Marcus got into finals with Liam, Cale, and Pete. That's where it got interesting. And our listeners listening to this later in our episode, our interview with these guys, They talk about the mentality of being first off the dock or being last, getting to know what your opponents are doing. Well, Pete qualified 3rd, Liam 2nd, Cale 1st. So Pete's off the dock before Liam, then Cale is last. Pete goes and does a back half, first jump, makes it after missing 2. Awesome resiliency. Got back on it, nailed his back half. He then did a big 1-ski flip, and in the finals you only get 2 jumps. So he went back half, 1-ski flip. Liam did his same, huge 1-ski flip, huge 1-ski gainer. Cale's up. Cale does a 1-ski mob, makes it. Cale puts on a back half ski. Cale's only tried 3 back halves all year so far, hasn't made any. Cale nails the back half to win the first buck-up stop. Congratulations to Cale Duquesne. Holy cow.
Yeah. That's he had the benefit of, hindsight, right? He can look at what the other competitors did. He was the last to ski, and he knew what he had to do to win. And Pete talks about this in the interview, so that's awesome.
And I had go ahead. I had a chance to talk to both Pete and Cale after the tournament, and that exactly played out that way. So Pete, maybe in hindsight, wishes he had done back half and front half, because he's great at both of those. If Pete makes back half and front half, he's basically impossible to beat right now.
Right, sure.
But he said, so he was mad at himself for not skiing well in qualifying and end up having to be first off the dock. He did the 2 jumps he thought it would take to win. Maybe it was a little conservative. Cale, I asked him what his game plan was. He said it was all about making the 1-ski mob first. He said, my plan was, before anyone skied finals, my plan was to do a 1-ski mob and try and get ball on a 1-ski gainer. Actually, he wanted to get ball on both, the mob and the gainer, and that was his plan. When he saw what materialized and he made his 1-ski mob, his mindset shifted, and he said, I have a chance to win this. And so he went for the win. He's either going to get 3rd place or 1st place if he makes it, and he went for the win, made the back half, and won the tournament. So to your point, it was all about the qualifying and who was off the dock first and knowing what your competitors could do, because if that script was flipped, if Cale goes off first, he said he was going to do a 1-ski mob and a 1-ski gainer.
Yep.
Then Pete wins.
Yep.
If he's last. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating on the buck up.
Well, just talking about the number of competitors that were there, just a glimpse into my world, because I live under a rock. I I didn't know that there was the buck up happening this weekend, and we have. Let me back up a little bit. The Mad City's jump team, both on the male and the female side this year, is pretty good, and so I'm excited about that. But we haven't had, our first show was canceled due to rain, so we hadn't had a show yet, and we had a paid show on this past Saturday, so it was the night of the buck up, and the show director sent me the show outline, and I was like, where are our jumpers? Like, I am stoked for this jump team, and none of them are there. And we like a guy that had just started making helis and front flips last year was like the only guy in, a single jump act. And I'm like, where is everybody?
Yeah, even Gabby, Presley, Carter, Derek, Kale, Jack, Parker, all
Strode.
gone at the buck up. Strode,
They all went to the buck up.
Yep.
All of them. But as it turned out, Cooper and Dano, who are only jumpers, absolutely stuck it. I mean, it ended up being a really good show, but I was just like, come on.
That's awesome.
I want to showcase some of this stuff, and so it was cool.
Kudos to the Buck Up Pro Tour. 20 people at the first stop. Really awesome. Congrats to all the competitors. It was phenomenal to watch. It was just fantastic. Let's dive in now, Adam, to today's show ski trivia. It is about today's 3 guests.
Okay.
How many national swivel championships has Brea won?
I am completely guessing, but I'm going to say 6.
3.
Oh, okay.
And she won 3 in a row. 3 in a row. Brea also won with Paige Pashina 2 national swivel pairs competitions.
Okay.
So we're talking about individual acts today. That's the episode. So that's where our trivia is. Pete Hegarty, freestyle jump. How many national championships has Pete won in freestyle?
1.
Just 1. You're right. You nailed it. Now, Pete won last year. The year before, if you recall,
I do.
He qualified in the Eastern region, got his wrist slapped and told he couldn't compete at nationals. So he was essentially disqualified from nationals because of the regional rules of what region you ski the most time in, because he was at Legoland but went home to ski with Maine. He didn't ski nationals and then couldn't ski worlds. The best jumper in the world couldn't compete at Worlds Freestyle, which was too bad.
And Derek won that year.
Derek won D1 Nationals that year with the back half, and it was awesome. It was a fun tournament in 2022. Derek won that. Yep. So Pete's won that. He's won several buck up stops, 4 buck up stops, and a season finale. I've got his notes here. Let me just take a peek. And he's won 3 regional championships, 4 buck up stops, and 2 buck up finales, and 1 buck up tour title. So he's got a lot.
Yeah, this is in a very brief amount of time. This is
totally.
I mean, 2 years.
Basically, he's been a stud for the last few years. Yep. Cory Krivitz, national doubles championships. How many?
Lots.
Yes. Cory and Kim.
Correct answer.
Do you have a number?
Geez, I way overestimated for Brea. I said 6. I'm gonna say 7.
10.
Oh my goodness!
And they won 10 in a row.
10 in a row.
10 in a row. National doubles championships, and the streak ended last year when Ryan Hoops and Sarah Yost won. It was the first time Cory and Kim, since they've been partners, 11 years, won the title the first 10 years, and took second place last year. Amazing run. Historic run. Man.
10 years
cool.
in a row.
Yeah, 10 years in a row. I mean, so we've got the best of the best on today's episode. Super fun to have these guys on the show today.
But before we talk about individual events with today's guests, let's talk about Flyman skis. These skis will be everywhere at individual competitions this summer. They are churning out more and more skis. Demand is high.
That's right. You guys know the drill. These skis are made for skiers, by skiers. Their jump skis and featherboard swivel skis are fully customizable, or you can get their stock designs, which are just as awesome. and these skis are affordable. I've seen several other used jump skis on Facebook recently. Like they're popping up all the time now for some reason. And they're priced at the same price as a brand new pair of Flymans. Like a used old pair of jumpers. You can get a brand new pair of Flymans for as good or better a price than that.
Yeah, top skiers everywhere have made the move to Flyman skis, and you should too. Get yours at flymanskis.com. That's flymanskis.com.
Let's get to our conversation today on preparing for individual competition. We have 3 superstar guests, all of whom have had immense success in individual competition, and they're going to share all sorts of tips and tricks for our audience today. Let's welcome to the show our swivel specialist, Brea Imse, our double specialist, Cory Krivitz, and our freestyle jump guru, Pete Hegarty. Welcome to the show, everybody.
How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Hey, thanks for being here, everyone. This is going to be awesome. We're looking forward to this. This was a topic suggested by listeners of the show. I think it's an awesome one that we should talk about. Glad to have you guys on. Let's dive in. You know, our goal today is to talk about the successes you've had in individual competition, the challenges, offer tips to our audience, maybe even talk a little bit about the overall value of individual competition. Let's start with Brea. I want to dive in. You've had a long career in individuals. How many years have you competed individually?
Honestly, no, I've lost track at this point.
I mean, how old were you kind of when you dove into your first swivel comp?
I think my first swivel comp was when I was probably around 2006 or 7, back before they had the Naughty Girl tournament. So my first tournament was actually Wisconsin State. So imagine kind of the nerves for that as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old at that point, and competing at a Wisconsin State tournament.
So as someone who's been doing it for so many years, what do you like about individual competition?
I think individual competition gives you the opportunity to compete against yourself, show your skills in a different variety of capacity. I mean, obviously, most of us ski in our show, but we limit our tricks so much in that show pass to make it clean and perfect for that routine. Giving it an individual spin on it, you can add your own style, your artistic style, you can add a theme, characters, and you can really kind of play the part that way and just show off your skills in a more unique and individual way.
Cory, same. Tons of success, tons of championships. Besides winning, what do you like about individual competition?
I like the camaraderie, and one of my favorite things about it is the chance to get to work with other couples and engage and grow the sport, teach, that kind of thing. That's one of my favorite things about it.
Yeah, that's cool, because then you spread your wings, your skills, share that with others. Doubles has its own camaraderie. You and your partner you've got to build chemistry and work together. So that's unique in that way. Pairs Swivel sort of has evolved that way too, Brea. Being able to now compete alongside someone, that's pretty cool. Pete, you're not as old as these guys. You haven't competed for as many years, but you're almost unbeatable right now. What drives you to compete individually and be great?
Just the love and passion I have for it, I guess. I've competed in sports all growing up, so just really competitive nature, I guess. And it's just fun. Obviously, winning makes it more fun. But being out there with the guys, hanging out, getting some drinks after and everything, that's what it's all about. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Let's talk a little bit about, as you're preparing for an individual competition. I mean, obviously throughout the season, you're learning new things, you're trying to get better. But as you come up to a competition, what's the balance between learning and trying new things versus just perfecting the tricks you're going to perform in competition? How do you balance that out?
Yeah, it's an awesome question, because I was thinking about this with Riley. She was competing in the All-American over spring break. We're coming off a winter, so much to learn heading into 2024, and she's wanting to just work on her passes for her routine. I'm like, honey, let's just get better. Let's work on swivel and get better. At what point does that switch from let's get after it and learn new stuff to let's dial in what we're going to do in competition? Great question.
I think for
Brea, go ahead.
Sure, I can
go
start
for it.
from the swiveling aspect. I mean, for me, for swiveling, it's obviously going to be a nice mix in the beginning of the summer. We're just getting our skills warmed up, kind of throwing some past ideas together. What are we comfortable with? And then as we get closer to those tournaments, those preparation weeks, probably I would say for me, I'm over preparer. So 2 or 3 weeks before that tournament, maybe I'll do a run that's dedicated just to my passes. And then for a lighter move, I'll go out and just do a fun run per se, to switch it up a little bit. But for me, especially like off the dock, for every routine I do, I try to do that first trick I'm going to do off the dock, whether that's an easy trick or a hard trick. But my brain is just kind of engraved in that, okay, my first move off the dock is this. That way, no matter what that boat speed is, if it takes a minute to get there, like I can do it in different speeds or conditions. So that's one of the things that I practice a lot, is just what's that first move off the dock? What does that look like in terms of comfortability? And then, as I get closer to that tournament, I use every opportunity I get to just practice. A lot of the times, obviously, we have intermissions in our shows. I ask the drivers, like, hey, can I do my competition run while there's a crowd here? And you guys are collecting. Can I take that 5 minutes real quick, do that, and then get ready for the second half?
Crap, Adam.
Yep.
Jesus.
There goes
you know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Mad City show directors, if you're listening, here comes Brooklyn and Presley and intermission. Here it comes.
Hey, it's another swivel run for us. So, double check there. And then after that tournament competition, then it's back to a little bit more fun in that mix up. When am I going to start to kind of add or prepare for that next tournament? Because usually that's a larger tournament, and kind of factor some of those playful moves in, but then also with my moves that I'm pretty serious about for the tournament.
Cory, how about you? Is it, how long are you guys tinkering versus kind of dialing things in? And having done it so long with one partner so successfully, are the days of new things gone by? Like you just lock in your winning run and keep doing that? Or how long are you tinkering?
Actually, we tinker a lot more than you'd probably think. Mostly in the off season though. And what's unique about doubles is we get to do a lot of lifting without actually hitting the water. So whereas like with jump or swivel, it's kind of more beneficial to be on the water for those. But so we probably do almost 80% just tinkering with like different combos and stuff like that in the off season. And then when we actually start to hit the water, then it's more like 80% specific routine, then 20% tinkering at that point. The biggest thing like that we'd have to play with, especially during water practices, is like special starts or special landing moves or something like that, where it's really hard to simulate that in a gym, but the regular passes we can almost perfectly simulate in a gym.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's you get the off-season land work, whereas jumpers don't get so much off-season. They don't do that. They got to be on the water to do what they're doing. There's trampoline work and there's visualization. I'm sure Pete will talk about some of that. But for Pete, for you with jumping, same question. Like how long are you working on new tricks? Is it a kind of a constant thing? And when are you then spending more time on what you're going to perform in the individual competition?
Sure, yeah, it all depends really on, I guess, what trick. If I'm a couple months out from a competition, I'm not really afraid to try whatever it may be. Because if you get, bumped, bruised up, you're generally going to heal up in time for the competition. If I'm trying a harder trick or something that has greater risk, I'll probably shut that down about a month before the competition. And then that, those 4 weeks leading up to competition will be more the tricks I think I'm going to try at competition, or if I'm trying new tricks, they're tricks with less risk. Once we get closer to the competition, maybe 2 weeks, a week out, that's when I'm really grinding the tricks that I'm going to be doing at the competition. I usually already have a game plan in mind of what I want to do. And then yeah, so about a week out, I'm jumping as much as I can, repping those tricks, repping them. And then as we get to about 4 days, 3 days from competition, I really start dialing back to shorter sets. And even like before nationals last year, just because it's a quite a bit different layout than buck up, where buck up there's one boat on the water, nationals there's two or three on the water, and you're getting sunk between tricks. So I literally went out the last probably 3 days before nationals. I'd have the driver take me out, I'd do my trick, and I'd have him sink me, and I'd just sit in the water for 4 or 5 minutes and just kind of get that mentality ready of this is exactly what it's going to be like. Switch the ski out there, talk to the driver, tell him what I want. And yeah, so that's kind of how I go through my progression of trying new tricks to getting ready for competition.
And you've got a number of competitions. I mean, so there's obviously the flaunt-its and the dub-its now. There's a lot more. But you on the freestyle side in particular, there's going to be 4 buck-ups, maybe a Mastercraft Pro or a Send It night jump, and regionals and nationals. Are there some where you're placing more importance? Is it like, this year for you, you're in Maine, is that between the Eastern regionals and nationals, you're going to dial in what you're doing because you want to be rock solid for nationals and win a national championship? Is that kind of what that will look like? And then maybe post-nationals, you might get after it again with some new stuff.
Sure, yeah. There's definitely I place higher importance on certain competitions and I train harder for others. But I would say the biggest thing is kind of the mental training that we might look past, especially in freestyle jump and with different layouts of competitions. It's getting ready, knowing what jumps you're going to do for that competition. If I fall on jump number 2, what does jump number 3 now look like? Or if I fall on jump number 1, what does jump 2 and 3 look like? So it's a lot of mental preparation as well as physical.
One thing that I wanted, before we move on, to ask, specifically Brea and Pete. Corey, you kind of mentioned, you can do a lot of work in the off season in the gym with your partner. Brea, Pete, what does your off season look like when you're not skiing? What are you doing, like in regards to training or preparation?
I think for me, I use the Swivelator a lot. That's one of a newer device that has come out in the last couple of years. Before that, it was just a pulley system that I would tie to a tree, put a small weight on it, and just kind of practice that form, practice maybe the next trick I wanted to try. I go to the gym regularly too. I do Pilates a lot. I think that correlates the best to swivel skiing, just with like the lengthening and strengthening of it. But I think all of us on here can agree that there's like no perfect off season workout that will get those muscles activated the same, no matter how hard you try. We're always sore the first couple of weeks or months now, but just honestly, just staying active, having that, moves on land helps a little bit too. And then, just kind of the mental walkthrough. It doesn't hurt to grab your sheet if you're a doubles or whatnot, swivel and kind of write up some passes that you're thinking of or want to try so you don't lose them in the thought of winter and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's good stuff. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I've been super blessed.
Okay, you never
He's never not skiing.
Yeah, so I think obviously I get to ski pretty much year round, like you guys said, and for me it's more maintaining the body and not letting myself get too sore or even burnt out, as weird as that might sound, from wanting to ski and whatnot. So trying to find the balance of working out, staying healthy, stretching, yoga, stuff like that. And then also trying new tricks, keeping the old stuff up to snuff. So
makes sense. Yeah. So for all of you, for someone who wants to start competing individually, what are some tips that you have for them in regards to, there's a number of things that go into it. There's practice, there's mindset, there's goals, there's the nervous component of it. Talk a little bit about that for our listeners if they want to get started to compete individually.
Corey, why don't you dive in?
I would say, first and foremost, don't be afraid to do it. Just, you got to overcome that fear, of course, but once you actually, put a plan for it and commit to actually competing, that's like the biggest hurdle to get over. Because once you realize that you're going to do it and you try to make fun out of it, then that's half the battle right there.
Brea.
I agree with Corey too. For me, I'm a nervous Nelly. I'm nervous for almost every competition I do. I still haven't shaken off that. So even us that have been competing for years still get a little bit of nerves and butterflies in our stomachs too. But I think, just kind of going into it, for me, I think a lot of girls don't know the scoring system either, and Swivel is heavily based on the scoring system. So kind of have an idea of what level tricks that you're doing. I like that we've recently broke it up into 180, 360 and open divisions. So now the 180s have a little bit more opportunity to get in tuned with the scoring and what moves that they can do and be like maxed out for their scoring in that sense a little bit too. But just preparing, start small. Obviously, this is your first tournament. Set a small, achievable goal. Maybe it's just to make that flip turn for that goal. I never usually set a goal of like, I want to win the tournament because you never really know who your competitors are, the conditions, what's going to be thrown at you. So take a smaller step back and set an achievable goal for yourself and then kind of build up from there. I think that's helpful in this sense. So now that you went out and you made that flip turn and it was awesome, let's build on it from there. The next tournament, let's do a flip extend. Let's do the overhead so that you're not adding everything in at once. You're starting a little bit smaller, getting comfortable, and then you're adding on to that foundation.
We'll talk. We want to dive into the scoring system in a minute here. You mentioned that. You also mentioned nerves, and you were a nervous Nelly. Now, at one point in your career, nerves caused falls. And how are you able to overcome that and have be nervous leading in and still be a national champion? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, falls are going to be there. We're going to come across falls no matter what. Even the best of the best still fall sometimes. I fell on my beach start last year, which was pretty embarrassing. But it wasn't something I was expecting either. So it's kind of getting in that quick mindset of, do I have a plan B? What does that look like? I usually always prepare a plan B. Like Pete said kind of earlier, if I fall on this trick, what does that look like? Usually I don't plan to fall on the first pass. Usually that's the second or the third pass where I insert a little bit harder tricks. But again, like you kind of just have to go with the flow, kind of shake off that mentality and just do the best that you can do from that point on, because you can't change what has happened in the past. There's always going to be another tournament that you can do, that you can redeem yourself. And like I said, we've all taken falls here. We've all taken unexpected falls. I feel for the girls. I felt for myself in that moment. But you have to keep going. The show must go on. Like any team show here, we have falls. The show keeps going, right? You just have to trust yourself a little bit more and just power through it.
Pete, someone wants to do their first freestyle competition. They want to enter Buck Up. They want to do regionals for the first time. What are some tips you have for them to get it going?
Yeah, just ditto what Brea said. Set a small goal for yourself if it's your first competition. And obviously nerves are a thing. I get nervous, but don't be worried about that you're competing against the Derek Buckmans, the Liam Klotzbachs, and whatnot. It's set the goal for yourself. I want to make my one ski flip, or I want to make my two ski gain, or whatever it may be, and do as many competitions as you can, because every competition you do, I find I learn something new from it. Whether it be, oh man, I really shouldn't have eaten this massive cheeseburger right before I went out and skied, or I drank 3 bottles of water this morning before I competed and I felt so much better on the water. So little things like that you'll kind of learn along the way, and you can kind of dial in your plan of attack as you go.
Building on that, Pete, you kind of mentioned like you're setting yourself up for routine. You kind of learn along the way that, hey, maybe I shouldn't eat that before I ski. I should do this instead. I feel better. I think routine is very important in regards to preparing for any type of performance. But how do you prepare to perform your best in the 5 minutes that you're on the water, right? I mean, it's months of preparation and training and passes and jumps, all of that. How do you put out your best in that particular 5 minutes? Because we're talking to the 3 people that have done this repeatedly over and over again, is putting out their best stuff in that small amount of time that you're on the water competing.
Yeah, sure. I think it looks different for everyone. For some people, might just be walking around and shooting the breeze with everyone before they go out, and that's what happens. That's what they do best with. For myself, I kind of, I'll hang out for a bit, but when it's probably 15, 20, 25 minutes before I'm on the water, I kind of put in my earbuds, I listen to some music, I stretch out, I kind of close my eyes, visualize every trick, and go through the feeling that I want my muscles to feel on the water is what I'm trying to accomplish on land, stuff like that. But yeah, it's, eat a good dinner the night before. I try to, get some pasta in and some good protein. And then that morning I'm hydrating a lot, eating a little bit of fruit, a lot of hydration. And then, yeah, that's kind of what I do to really try to go out and perform my best.
And even let me add to Adam's question a little bit, like, let's say the week leading up to competition, are you guys going hard every day, or do you taper off? Do you wind down as the week goes? Do you rest your body, or do you go hard up until the morning of competition?
Well, for Kim and I, we go hard like the week before and maybe the beginning of the week of competition, but we tend to completely drop back and rest for a good 2-3 days before competition.
Okay.
Just to be fresh.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat. It's hard because usually, and obviously most of us know nationals is also the same week, and most of us are on a team, so we have the team component of it too. I usually only take one run that day, and I try to come to practice early so I have a little bit better water. I'm the first out on the water if I can be. Kind of take that time. If there's time at the end, maybe I'll do just a pass or two, maybe that I need a little tweak on. But also during that time, like I've got my driver that's going to be driving me. I've got my timer in the boat. I've got maybe somebody filming me quick on land just so I can kind of prepare of what I'm going to look like on the water. Some people wear their costume before they go out too. I've made the mistake of wearing it day of and had some malfunctions before. So I always at least do like one ski run in it quick just to make sure that it's in the right places and such. Props can be tricky sometimes too. So just kind of preparing in that aspect of it too.
Cory, same for you. Like, how do you guys set yourself up for success in doubles? You mentioned the taper. What else are you doing, like to Adam's question, to really thrive in that 5 minutes you have on the water? Are you testing out costumes? Are you working on, what are you doing to set yourself up for success?
Yeah, I mean, at this point we have a pretty good routine going with it, but as far as like costumes, we're testing costumes. Kim probably, she sews. She doesn't always make our costumes. A lot of times we get them from waterwear, but we'll even get a costume, and because I have to touch so many different places on a costume and have good grip, the costume has to get adjusted 6 times before we take it and are happy with it. We're planning, for contingency plans for anything up to even breaking a rope. We'll have an extra rope in the boat, during a competition in case there's a catastrophic failure. A lot of it, and I like for us having our driver, especially for a special start and the way we want patterns driven and stuff, we're, going over things with our driver a lot. Getting that all planned out ahead of time so that we don't have any snafus there. But yeah, like we said, we are practicing very frequently up until a few days before, and it's mostly rest. While we're waiting to take our turn at a competition, we typically don't watch the other competitors because it makes the nerves worse. And Kim is the nervous one in our pair, so I'm pretty laid back, but a lot of my pre-run is trying to keep her calm. So that's one big thing that is about it. And like how Brea said that she gets nervous, like I don't really get that nervous, but I have to try to control my other half and her nerves.
Makes sense. And, Brea, you mentioned scoring and looking and understanding the scoring system. How much do each of you study the scoring system in your discipline, and how much do you build your performance around that scoring system? How much does that matter, and should people getting involved in individual comp be studying the scoring system and building routines around it? I'd like to hear from each of you on that. Cory, why don't you go ahead, talk about the scoring system.
So we build our routine quite heavily around the scoring system, and it kind of, in a way, limits us from doing some of the things that we'd like to do or some of our signature moves because they're not always valued as highly. And it's kind of, if we're going into a tournament and our goal is to win, then we have to be very strategic in what we put on the water. Now, my advice for somebody that's just getting started, if their goal isn't winning, is to put on the performance that makes them the happiest. It would be my best suggestion. So to do the moves that they enjoy the most and that they can perform the best and make look the greatest, I would say that would be, for someone getting into individual competition, that would be more important than playing, the scoring system. But if you're trying to be a hardcore competitor, then you definitely have to look at the scoring charts and make those like second nature to you.
The same for you, Brea. You study in the charts. You're building your routine around that swivel chart, that path list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because it is so heavily based on that scoring system, you need to just understand it and understand there's two scores that they're looking at, the technical and the artistic impression. And that goes more than just, how you're on the water. That's featuring your dock dance, your costumes. How long are you outside taking the corners? Do you come up and just do a bow? There's so many things that you can factor in that to make it a whole 5-minute performance too. Like as soon as that horn goes off, like all eyes are on that performer from start to finish. How are you going to grab that audience in for those 5 minutes total? Over the last couple of years, I started incorporating people or props as like I'm taking the corner, something just to be visually in front of the audience. And I take pretty fast corners. We're hauling by all means, and that's something we practice, but I'm typically only out of the show course for 15 seconds. I've watched some routines where they're taking a corner for 38, 40 seconds, and it's just that there's so much dead time right there. So to eliminate some of that dead time, is there something in your theme that could be happening? Something along those lines that's helpful. So I've really incorporated the fast corners. People, my zombies last year were just kind of walking around during that time. And I felt like it was something for the audience to watch the whole time.
But from a technical standpoint, are you trying to maximize those higher point tricks? Are you building your routine around what's in there? Is it important for somebody to know that chart?
Yes. Oh, sorry. So absolutely. So I take my hardest tricks or the top level tricks that I would like to do. I pick out the 4 or 5 of those or whatever that looks like, and I place them strategically in my pass. I don't typically like to open with the hardest trick if I'm coming around the corner. I like to get settled. So that's usually right when it's like dead in the middle of the audience, performing that 1080 trick. And then making sure that I have the levels too. I'm not doing all above over the head tricks. I'm keeping it to my waist. Sometimes I'm going even lower at a kneel and then above the head. So having that variety too also will create different levels of scoring, which is absolutely what the judges want to see. They want to see the level 3s, the level 7s, and the level 10s, not just all level 7s because you're maxing out at a score of 7 anyway. So they want to see that breakup of tricks.
Pete, how about you? Are you studying the chart, the freestyle difficulties, the DODs?
Definitely, Matt. Yeah, that's kind of like the holy Bible of freestyle jump is the DOD chart. And, obviously if you're newer, then you just got to, go out and make your two-ski heli, two-ski flip and be proud of it. And, if you make those first 2, then on your third, try a gainer or whatever you're comfortable with. But as you start really getting into the nitty-gritty of competition, you got to know the DOD chart, how they score, judges' tendencies. I've gone back and I looked at every available nationals scoring. I think it's from 2000 and maybe 16 was the earliest I could find, and I kind of found every trick and what they happen to score and how much more worth it is to hit the ball. Those distance buoy percentages, but live and die by the DOD.
You're a man after my own heart, studying those historical scores. I love it.
cut from the same cloth. Jeez. Pete, will you change on the fly during competition based on what you know you need to win?
Yeah, so that's a really good point, and kind of like Corey said, they tend to not watch the people before him. I really make sure I do watch the people before me, because if they happen to have a fall, then maybe I can dial back my run to something a little more consistent. But yeah, I'm looking what's out there. I kind of know generally what they're scoring based on how I would judge them and how I think the judges are judging them, and I kind of have a little score made up in my head of what they probably just scored. This is if I'm off the dock after them, obviously, and then I kind of know what I need, and then based on my maybe my first jump, if it doesn't go great, I know that my second jump needs to be a little better, or if I really nail my first jump, now I can really kind of dial back and just be really safety jump on the second or third or whatever to make sure I get a score on the board.
Pete's probably one of the only guys, though, that matters for, interestingly enough. Like, the other guys are all thinking, we got to make our hardest crap and try and beat Pete. Pete's watching them and saying, well, maybe I can dial it back and still win. Most other guys can't dial it back, but the scoring system matters in both cases, and it's interesting to study it, to know, to follow it, to play the hand to win. Some people got to play their best hand no matter what. Some people have more in their bag and can pull out different tricks at different times as needed, and that's cool.
Brea, I love the fact that you said that you always want to keep something in front of the audience even when you're in the corner. That's awesome. I do that a lot as well when we have acts in the corner. But I want to expand on that a little bit, and this is for both Brea and Cory. In swivels and doubles, how important is theme, costumes, props, the artistic side of it, and how much time do you put into that portion versus like the skills and the tricks?
I'd say for me, it's probably almost 50-50. I really like playing a character versus a dance and a song. I think that goes a little bit further with a theme because it gives me arm movements to replicate that character a little bit better. With the zombies, obviously, it was a lot of, I used tombstones, I used smoke to play that you were kind of in that setting for it as well, too. So I really play my theme a lot, and I think, your artistic score should be close to your technical merit, and mine are almost exactly the same. So I think sometimes if I do have a bobble or something on the water, I think sometimes that helps me bring it back up because I didn't just do a song and a dance with no special or unique flair, as you want to say, to the judges or to the audience. And then just kind of I play the character from start to finish, if that makes sense.
Cory, how about you?
Guys?
For us, we haven't really delved into the character part as much. Not our style is just a little bit different, I guess I would say. We typically find some music that we like and then base everything kind of off of that. So it would be more like if you were going to see like a dance performance where people are using music and then they're using costumes that kind of jive with the music. And then we try to get our passes in order or our lifts in order where it kind of goes with the music as well. I feel like I have a hard time actually getting across a character in that little 5-minute window. I think it's just a thing for me where I have anxiety about trying to convey a story in such a short amount of time that I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to take some music and a flashy costume and some really good moves and be a good showman and, focus on that. But I mean, to each their own. I see benefits in both ways. It's just for Kim and I, the specific characters and, that kind of thing is a little bit hard for us.
And for both of you on the doubles and swivel side, the technical or the artistic part of that is, costuming, music, character, props, that part. And a big part of it is how you look on the water, toe points and lines and flow and grace and beauty. That's also a major part of your artistic, correct?
Correct.
Yes, definitely. And we spend a lot of time, and I don't know if you guys are going to. Oh, I was just going to say,
ahead,
I don't know
Cory.
if we're going to go into this further in the interview, but we use a GoPro on the front of our ski, and we use that to like nitpick and go through those toe points and those, straight legs and hand placements and all those kinds of things that go into artistic. Because we can throw moves out all day, but to get them like really crisp and to improve on the artistic part of the actual lift that we're doing, we have to analyze it, and the GoPro on the front of our ski is like the best thing for that.
That's awesome. Brea, got final
I would
words.
assume that you guys both use video, correct?
I do, yeah. But I was just gonna say, just because I do a character doesn't mean you can still do a music and dance just as well. I think I just meshed with that better. So I don't think there's a right and a wrong way, because you certainly can play up a small music and dance pretty well. I just connect with it better. So with Cory and Kim, it just works better for them that way. For me, a character seems to just help me play my role throughout. So either is right.
I think it's just
Pete,
a personal
I don't want to leave you out of
personality
this
thing.
conversation.
Yeah.
Pete, I don't want to leave you out. Are we going to see a character in a costume from you?
Probably not this season. Maybe at one tournament. We'll see. But I would say chances are pretty slim.
Well, I happen to know the Buckman brothers, and maybe that the artistic component makes its way into the Buck Up tour. We'll see.
If it makes its way in, then I'll have something good.
That's awesome. Pete, for you though, talking with Doubles and Swivel about artistic versus technical, for you, what is the sort of decision-making process in working on things, working on new tricks or working on distance with your existing tricks, because of those bonus points, those buoy bonuses you get for hitting the buoy? Or are you really working on both? Is there one way you're leaning versus another in freestyle today, distance versus new tricks in your bag?
Yeah, traditionally it's kind of always been more DOD versus distance. The higher DOD, I forget the exact numbers. Liam has it written down somewhere where, you need to get at least like a 40% multiplier per se on a 4.0 trick, which is like a one ski flipper gainer, to reach like a 6.5, which is like a one ski mob. So in the past, I've always been much more pushing DOD. This summer, the nationals distance balls and regionals distance buoys will be higher percentages. I believe it's 10, a 25, and a 40 or something this year. So with those being that much higher, I definitely will try to push for more distance for those bonuses. But in the past, it's always been DOD over distance.
And that makes sense. Like for the distance probably isn't going to leap you above someone doing a harder trick, but for people doing like tricks, now distance plays a role, and as well as your amplitude, your form, your landing, those things now really matter.
Big time, yeah. Especially with my back half lately, and there's a lot more guys out there doing it now. The technique I'm trying to refine, and do the judges like maybe a later turn? Do they like an earlier turn? We look at things like your stick, and I'm making sure that I don't hand plant when I come around. And working at Lego, obviously for the last several years, I've had that time to put in and really refine everything. This summer will be a little different, but really important to find, like, once you do have a trick and it's consistent, now you can start thinking about really laying it out in the first part of the trick, or really sticking it in the second half of the trick, so you can clean things up once you have them consistent, and that's really the edge over maybe the guy that's doing the exact same tricks as you. If you're doing a one ski flip and a one ski gainer, chances are there's a lot of other guys in the competition doing those same tricks, so it's what's going to set you apart from them, to get on the podium.
Good stuff. We kind of want to wrap up today with getting your final thoughts on, kind of the overall big picture of individual axe competition. We've seen this massive growth in individuals, really kind of since COVID, when that was an individual-only year. But we've seen growth with, regionals and nationals, more competitors, worlds having individuals now, buck up, flaunt-it, all sorts of, different individual competitions. So what is the value of individual competitions in show skiing? Now we have our roots in show skiing, but what value does individual competition have in our sport? Cory, go ahead.
Oh, I think it's huge. It actually gets, being on a team is great. And, there are acts that we ski with the team that are, super cool and super important to show skiing. But some of the things that we do in individual competition, we just don't get the opportunity to focus as much on when we're doing our team skiing. And we can really hone our skills and push ourselves more than we can when we're, working with the team. And, I've done it where I've skied with a team and competed individually, and I've taken years off from skiing with a team and still competed individually. Skiing with the team is awesome. My heart will always belong to show skiing with a team, but it just don't get to have that. For me, I don't get the personal drive to do something a little bit above and beyond without doing the individual competition portion.
Brea, how about you?
I think pretty much the same. I think we can all agree that sometimes we scale back a little bit for the sake of the team, to keep the team forward versus, you as the individual star in that routine or that pass or that act. So giving the opportunity to have it be about yourself during that 5 minutes to showcase your ability makes it fun, makes it exciting, creates competition. But also, we're a small sport too. We know almost all of our fellow competitors, and supporting them and rooting them and kind of, having that banter of, this person is doing this trick, I want to try this trick. So it creates that fun atmosphere of it too, and getting to know your fellow competitors too, to try to earn that top spot or that goal that you want.
Pete, how about you?
Yeah, I love skiing with a team personally, and I don't think there's any better feeling than, the whole pyramid going up, coming down, and coming into the beach together. But as human beings, we are naturally competitive, and to have individuals to be able to push just yourself and have to rely on just yourself, I think is largely important to our sport. And it does make it feel a bit more like a sport for outsiders, I think, where they look at you like you're just Disney on ice but on the water per se. So it's like, when we get into individual competition, it's more sporty, more legit. So
awesome. Adam, this is a good one, huh? These guys are phenomenal superstar talents, and great to get inside their minds.
I took a lot of notes. Good one.
Good. Well, thanks, guys. We appreciate you being here today. Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate you, and best of luck this season in your individual competitions.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, everyone.
Adam, that was fun, man. Just getting inside their minds and hearing their preparation. I think our audience is going to get a lot out of this podcast.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're listening to the best of the best. And I did literally take some notes that I kind of wanted to reflect on here. So some tips for people looking to get into competition. Number one is just sign up. Set a goal, sign up. Set small goals. Nerves is a part of performing. Everybody gets nervous, even the best. Know the scoring system. All swivel skiers are now going to be skiing at intermission at their shows and doing Pilates. And jumpers are going to be jumpers are going to be eating pasta the night before, fruit the day of, hydrating, and doing yoga.
Yep.
And I look forward to Pete's character and costume that he's going to come up with for nationals. So I'm excited about that.
It's going to be awesome. Well, great stuff. Awesome show today. Thank you to Flyman Skis, Today's sponsor, custom-made jump skis, featherboard swivel skis at affordable prices. Get yours at flymanskis.com.
And Matt, next week is our tournament season preview. Our next episode, is the tournament season preview. Thanks again to all of our listeners. This is Matt and Adam, and this is The Ski Show.
Thank you for listening to The Ski Show, the ultimate show ski podcast with Matt and Adam. If you have questions or ideas for the show, find us on social media or message us at theskishowpodcast@gmail.com.